guys, Meg Czapiewski here with Honorable Service Realty Group with your summer update, the market update for about the middle of summer. It's middle of July. I've got June numbers in. I also added one slide to show you what the first half of July is looking like because there's some interesting rest of the story, as I call it. So let's jump right into our tables and graphs that we typically share with you guys. Starting out in Fairfax County with market activity. You may remember last month that the other two counties, Prince William and Stafford, were already starting to see a downtrend in their activity in May. But June is the first time that we are seeing the spring slump start to taper off, or the spring market rather, start to taper off in Fairfax County. Not only is it a drop from May to June, but it's in compared to June of 2024, a 4.5% drop as well. So it's not unanticipated for the summer to start to slow down a little bit, but June is usually not the month where we see it. May is definitely not the month where we saw it, but we saw it already in Stafford and Prince William last month. So now we take a look at the pricing trends, which has continued to be a good news story for the most part for our entire region. But in detached homes, it's still an upward trend. That's good. 2.8%, on average across the nation, you usually expect around 3%, give or take. So they're right on mark with what they should be expecting, particularly in this market. It's almost like a yay, good news story here. Townhomes, just kind of a flat line. There hasn't been tons of movement in general on townhomes, sometimes in the barely negative, sometimes a little bit higher. But for the most part, with the exception of May, which was kind of an anomaly, we've seen positive growth in pricing for the entire last 12 months in Fairfax County. Now let's take a look at Prince William, and we will start with our activity levels. Remember, as I said, last month we saw that drop, and not only was it a drop from April, but it was a drop May to May, and here we go again. So a little over 2% drop in activity levels from May of 25 to May of 24. You look at June, it's 8.2% drop. So the market is truly slowing down, and Prince William is seeing it more so than Fairfax, but I think they'll be in sync next month when we look at the data for July. Now taking a look at the pricing trends for a detached, because you had slower activity in May and continued slower activity in June, you're going to see this drop in prices. It's got the accumulating inventory because the lower activity levels is making a difference in the growth of home values. So while I wouldn't panic overall because there's tons of pluses across the board, this 0.2 or this 2% negative drop from June of 24 to June of 25 is probably a trend that we're going to see continuing for the next few months. And then on the townhomes, that's a negative 5.6%. They did have positive growth in a lot of the months, but not all of them. There's another negative 7.8%. So the townhomes have not had the same level of appreciation as the single family homes. Going to our last county to take a look at Stafford, and we'll go over to market activity. And like Prince William, they've now had 2 months of dropping trends, but when you look at their comparison to last year, it's a very different story. Prince William County is seeing lower activity levels when compared to 2024, but Stafford had a rough year in 2024. And this affordability factor, where the further south you go, the more your money buys, is really helping Stafford stay at good growth, both in terms of home values and activity levels compared to what we saw in 2024. So speaking of home values, let's go take a look. In the detached, up 8%. So, wow, that's great. 609,500 is a median home price for a home in Stafford. That is rare. We've seen a few this month or this year in the sixes, but the vast majority of history on Stafford is that they'd never popped over that 600,000 price point. And now you've got townhomes with not growth, but also like at a 0.5%. That's not something to be too concerned about. You're seeing some negatives across. Again, townhomes as a whole in our area are not experiencing quite the value gains as our single families have. But good on Stafford for 8% value increase year over year for the month of June on their single family homes and breaking the 600K barrier in 3 out of 4 months. Okay, so let's look at one other chart. How do I do this? Oh, here we go. We're gonna share my rest of the story chart. Because as I've been telling you, what we've been seeing is as the market slows and buyers are more hesitant, then while there's more opportunity for buyers, there's also a story to show for home values and home pricing and the accumulated inventory. So when we start at pendings over on the right side of this slide, this is the number of homes in each of the counties that is under contract in some status. And their days on market is still under 2 weeks for June, but eking up as you look at the middle of July a little bit because that inventory is starting to accumulate. So now your median days on market is also on an upward trend. The more important factor on this is the price drops. So the price drops is about reflecting about 6% of homes that are under contract. I got to tell you, there's not really a month that I can think of or a year I can think of in this June where our number of homes on the market was more than the number of homes under contract, because typically our inventory turns so quickly that the homes that are under contract from the April purchases and the May purchases and the first part of June purchases are all still under contract, and later June, of course, they're all still under contract. Whereas the inventory's just starting to come on or is absorbed so quickly. But that's not what's happening anymore. What's happening is that in all 3 counties, the number of things under contract is less than the number of homes currently sitting on the market. And that, if you take this piece of the market that's under contract, some of them may have been April sales, some of them may have been May sales, some of them may have been June pendings. But these that are under contract, the days on market is lower, the price drops are happening, but it's 6%, at 9%. In Stafford, well, that one is like rough, 27%. But then look at what's on the market right now. Today is July 16th. Fairfax has almost 1,600 homes on the market. Prince William County has 620. Stafford has 377. The days on market for those is all across the board over a month. So that absorption rate is increasing. And what it used to be like a week, 2 weeks most, now it's a month and a half, 2 months. The price drops are very much reflective then of this. 37% of all homes in Fairfax currently on the market have taken at least one price drop. 37% in Prince William and 43% in Stafford. So days on market's continuing to inch up, even among homes that are under contract, because we've got accumulating inventory that is outpacing how quickly buyers are buying. And that is atypical, particularly this early on when we're still looking primarily at pendings that happened in April and May and June. So absorption rates actually in Stafford, it was 77% up from previous years. That's a lot. Bottom line is it has never, ever, ever been more critical to get it right out of the bat. If you get it right out of the bat, you're in the 9 days on market, not the 14 and not the 40. And you're not having to take a price drop, because those price drops may eventually get your home sold, but they likely turned out selling your home for less than what you would have sold it for if you had priced it right the first time. And price is always a factor of condition, and there are things that aren't expensive that you can do for getting yours to stand out. Making of all of the homes on the market, of all the 1,600 homes in Fairfax, yours can stand out with some strategic updates and repairs, some simple things, staging, professional photos, and then of course the smart pricing. But you can elevate the condition, which allows you to elevate the list price by doing all these other things. I hope this was helpful. As you know, Honorable Service Realty is in the top 100 of teams in Northern Virginia. Our sellers are getting on average 15% more for their properties than our competitors' sellers are getting for theirs. And that's because in that yellow box, all those things we do at an expense that makes it extremely easy for sellers to be able to do this. So give us a call. I hope the market information was helpful. I know it's big picture, so if you want something more specific for your home, your neighborhood, just give us a buzz. We can tell you where your home sits and what we need to do to get it top dollar. Okay? Thanks so much for listening. I appreciate it. Hey, if you like these market reports and they help, you can always go to hsr5star.com and leave me a review. I would love it. Thanks, everybody. Bye.